What's up everyone, Moonrider here, and today we're taking a look at a brand new 2024 low-profile mechanical keyboard from Royal Kludge. This is the N80 and it just released back in March with two colors to choose from and two switch options. For this video, Royal Kludge supplied me with the sandy gray variant with custom, fast actuating tactile brown switches, and it's been a great addition to my setup. The N80 offers some incredible features like two wireless options, 3 layers of sound absorption, and best of all, this smart display with knob control that not only lets you control all your connectivity options, RGB settings, and show the date, time, and battery life, but you can also customize the display with Gifs through the free software, which is pretty cool. So in this video, we will take a closer look at the N80's features, including its custom switches, smart display, and knob control, its software, and more. But first, let's start with what's included. The first thing you will no doubt see is this keyboard illustrated pamphlet. Be sure to hang on to this as it's actually the user manual that unfolds like a travel map. And like a travel map, it contains some very useful information. Beneath that is the clear plastic dust cover and the N80 keyboard wrapped in a protective plastic bag. All the other accessories are actually stashed away toward the back of the box, and there you will find the USB cable, a keycap and the switch puller, which means hot swappable to a degree, more on that later, some spare switches, and this thing that looks like a guitar pick. Apparently it's a disassembling tool. I don't know. Anyway, back to the keyboard. My initial impressions of it were good. Looks sleek in the low profile design. I like the sandy gray color scheme with the clean whites, rich grays, and warm pewter tones. Seems like it would be a great choice in a cozy theme setup. It feels well built and sturdy too, despite the whole base and frame being plastic. Design-wise, the front and sides are very minimalist with all the switches, ports, and dongle sockets being located on the back. As for what's on the back, starting on the left is the 2.4 GHz dongle in a magnetized socket to prevent the dongle from slipping out either while getting moved around your office or room, or during transport in your backpack. Moving right is the on-off switch. Then, these two USB ports. The left side one with a USB plug icon is actually a pass-through port that only works in wired mode, while the right side port is your standard connecting port to your PC or other device. As for that pass-through port, no instructions or usage specifics are mentioned anywhere, either online or in the user manual, but in my experience, it works for charging and operating my Gravistar Mercury M1 Pro mouse. It can charge my Logitech G733 Lightspeed headset via cable, and when I plug the wireless dongle into a USB-C adapter, it works. Meanwhile, the underside has a completely flat design with 4 rubber feet for stability and 2 sets of kickstand feet, each with their own rubber stabilizers, giving you 3 height options to choose from. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the smart display and knob control in the top right corner. This controls everything, and I mean everything on the N80. Here we have the default home screen, and it's definitely the most informative. It tells you everything from the date, time, battery level, whether you're using the Windows or Mac layout, your current mode of connection, and caps lock indicator. The smart display is controlled by pressing down on the screen while twisting the knob to cycle through connection options, different home screens, Windows and Mac layouts, RGB settings, and your smart screen language. But by twisting the knob control without pressing the screen first, you'll control your connected device's volume. While scrolling through menus, press the screen again to open that menu or select a setting. By cycling until you reach home and pressing the screen, you actually have an option of choosing between that default home screen, a digitized analog clock, digital date and time, or one of your uploaded GIFs with the use of Royal Kludge's free software. To set the date and time, press and hold the smart screen for 5 seconds until the year begins flashing. Twist the knob to modify the year, then press the screen to move on to the next month, day, or time, and repeat until it's set accordingly. I'll cover more of the smart display specifics later in the video in regards to connectivity and RGB settings. So far, the N80 seems like an incredible keyboard, and in a lot of ways it is. But here's where it stumbles: keycaps. From a sometimes competitive gamer's perspective, they're not ideal. For starters, they're ABS plastic instead of PBT, which means they're really smooth. Also, since they're low profile, they're almost completely flat. See where I'm going with this? If you're a competitive battle royale gamer, it's really hard to play on this keyboard. I find my fingers sliding all across the WASD keys when I'm playing Fortnite or any fast-paced action-adventure game. Without a ridge to keep my ring finger on A, it often slides off and finds itself lost and useless on the caps lock key. However, I'm not always playing games like that. When I'm looking to chill out, I'll boot up The Sims or Stardew Valley, maybe even Zoo Tycoon. And no, I don't mean Planet Zoo, I mean the OG Zoo Tycoon. For cozy chill games like that, these keycaps are great. Meanwhile, from a typer's perspective, things seem even better. Despite having a smooth finish and flatter profile, the N80's keycaps are easy and pleasant to type with. They also have an appealing minimalist look to them with brilliantly contrasted legends, fonts that are crisp and legible with no smudging thanks to the double shot process. However, if you're someone that uses multimedia and function keys, then you may have noticed a problem. There are no sub-legends, like at all. Not even common essentials like screen lock, print screen, insert, home, or end functions. Instead, you have two options. You can reference the user manual to see that print screen is function plus delete, home is function plus page up, end is function plus page down, screen lock is function plus open bracket, and insert is function plus close bracket. Or you can use the free software to create alternate profiles with those key assignments placed wherever works best for you. Me personally, I'm all for the minimalist design with no sub-legends, especially on an RGB backlit wireless keyboard like this. Compared to others, I think this is a breath of fresh air because the design is cleaner and more organized. Meanwhile, other keyboards have sub-legends for 1 to 3 Bluetooth functions, at least 6 for RGB. I'm glad those aren't cluttering up space on this keyboard. Now for switches, you have the option of choosing between pre-lubed RK custom linear reds and tactile browns. I prefer tactile feedback, so I went with the browns, and I really like them. They're very smooth operating, the tactile bump is subtle yet noticeable, and there's no annoying ping recall when actuated. Since the switches are low profile and only 12mm tall, they're fast actuating with a pre-travel distance of 1.5 plus or minus 0.4mm. Total travel distance for the browns is only 3.2 plus or minus 0.4mm. Similarly, the linear reds have a pre-travel distance of 1.2 plus or minus 0.4mm and a total travel distance of 3.2 plus or minus 0.4mm and require 40 plus or minus 5 grams force to operate, with both switches claiming a 50 million click lifespan. Meanwhile, switches are hot swappable, but the caveat is they're only hot swappable with RK low profile switches, which I guess is great if one of the switches fails, but wouldn't that be more hot replaceable? Anyway, they still feel and sound like great switches, despite the fact that they're RK custom jersey switches, as you can see from the switch casing. As for me, I don't care. I've been enjoying them as I'm not too particular about switches so long as they're smooth and don't ring on actuation. But I understand people have their own reservations about different switch manufacturers. The switches themselves are actually rather quiet, as Royal Kludge markets the tactile brown for quiet typing and the linear reds for ultra quiet. What really gives the N80 its clean and quiet sound is its 3 layers of sound absorbing padding, with 2 of those layers being IXPE sound dampening foam with a bottom silicone sound dampening pad. And here's the end result. Similar to many other keyboards today, the N80 offers tri-mode connectivity with Bluetooth 5.0, wireless 2.4 GHz, and wired USB-C. Typically, wired is simply plug and play, and even 2.4 GHz mode only tends to involve turning on your keyboard, plugging a dongle into your computer, and switching your wireless setting to 2.4G mode. But not the N80. She's a complicated keyboard. So let me show you how to set this up right the first time so you're not staring at the keyboard thinking, WTF. Let's start with wired USB-C. Plug in the USB cable, then press the smart screen and twist the knob control clockwise until you reach USB mode. Then press the smart screen again. Similarly with 2.4G mode, power on your keyboard, remove the 2.4G dongle from the back of the keyboard and plug it into your computer. Press the smart screen, twist clockwise until you reach 2.4G and press and hold the smart screen to pair. When you see 2.4G success, you're connected, and the next time you select 2.4G mode, you only need to press the smart screen to reconnect rather than hold to pair. Connecting with Bluetooth will be a bit different depending on the device you're connecting to, but for the most part, repeat the previous steps, only selecting BT1, BT2, BT2 or BT3, as each of these is just its own Bluetooth preset for another device like a PC, laptop, Android, or iOS device. The N80 can even connect to gaming consoles like PS4, PS5, and Xbox, but only in wired mode. Now let's move on to RGB, because what gaming keyboard would be complete without it, right? The N80 has the best RGB controls of any keyboard I've used. Typically, you're stuck with rudimentary function keys for brightness, speed, color, and pattern. And when there's 18 or more patterns to cycle through, they all kind of start to look the same. And when you accidentally skip over the one you wanted, you gotta let out a frustrating curse word and do it again, and pray to the RGB gods you don't skip over it again. But thankfully that's not the case with the N80. It has 4 easy to use menus for RGB: Effect, Couleur, Brightness, and Speed. Press the smart screen and twist the knob clockwise, or counterclockwise if you want to take the shortcut, and press the smart screen again to select whichever menu. Effects gives you 17 RGB patterns to choose from, as well as a custom option for creating your own pattern. Meanwhile, the color menu is similar, giving you 7 solid colors to choose from, plus rainbow, and you can see the colors in real time before you select one. Brightness and speed are controlled the same way, but heads up, if you try to access speed while your RGB is set to a static, the submenu will not open. Now let's move on to the software, since I'm sure you all want to see the Gifs in action. Start by visiting arcadegamingstore.com. I'll have the link down below in the description. Click software at the top and select N80. Once the software is installed, I recommend connecting the keyboard to USB, because you cannot apply Gifs in wireless mode. First, let's cover Profile, which you can access by clicking the keyboard icon. If you need to reassign a function key like print screen or insert, this is where you can do that. Select whatever key you want so it highlights orange, then select your desired function to assign. To revert any key to default assignment, right-click on the key and select Default Function. You can even save up to 3 profiles from the top left. The next menu down is for creating, importing, and exporting macros, if you're into that. The light bulb is your standard RGB menu with all the same patterns you're able to access with the smart screen knob control, except for the self-define and music modes. The disco ball menu takes you to real-time light, which seems to be more RGB patterns, and TFT takes you to Gifs. Now the smart screen only displays a 128 by 128, and despite the screen preview being square, the smart screen display is a circle with a flat bottom. Just keep that in mind when you're sizing up your Gifs. Anyway, click load and select your GIF from whatever folder you have it in. If you need to shrink it, use the scroll wheel on your mouse to shrink and enlarge it to size. You can even click right or left at the top right to rotate your GIF. You can also make your own tweaks to intervals, otherwise click apply to synchronize it to the keyboard. Do keep in mind, you can only keep one GIF saved to the N80 at a time, and to swap them out, you'll need to repeat this process. So the N80 has wireless capabilities, bright RGB, and has a smart screen that is always on and can even play Gifs. Sounds like it requires a lot of power. That's why Royal Kludge fitted the N80 with a beefy 3,750 mAh battery. With RGB on, Royal Kludge say the battery will last for 25 hours, and with RGB turned off, 115 hours. So that's the first look at Royal Kludge's brand new low-profile mechanical keyboard for 2024, the N80. And for $130, I think it's a great keyboard. Despite its plastic structure, it feels solidly built. Its 3 layers of sound dampening cut hollow sound way down, and the fast actuating low-profile switches make this keyboard great for casual gaming and even better for typing. And let's not forget about that smart screen knob control, which makes selecting between connection modes and customizing the RGB a breeze, while also giving you an even greater way to customize the keyboard for your space and add your own touch of personality to the keyboard with custom Gifs. As long as you're not a hardcore battle royale gamer, the N80 could be the perfect keyboard for you. Now that's it for my review of the N80 from Royal Kludge. Be sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it and found it helpful, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more gaming setup content or gaming tech reviews like this. Until next time, thanks for watching.